Hey guys, so I've got my doors gapped on this Jaguar, and this panel, the lower panel, I guess you'd say the lower part of the door skin was heavily rotted. So I decided, instead of trying to fix these two pieces, and it had some other pieces down at the bottom that were pretty bad, I figured I'd just make a whole new panel. So the best way to do something like that is I just grabbed a tape measure, I wrapped it around the radius. So this is the bottom. This was my cut line before I cut it. And I just grabbed a measurement and I went around it with a tape measure. And I made sure I cleared the rust. That was my biggest deal. So I had something solid to weld to. Then what I did is I scribed a line in the paint and I cut it with a cut-off wheel. Then I ground off the paint, and then this is obviously the new panel. The new panel, what I did is if you lay it flat, if you lay this panel flat, right when this panel starts to lift up, that's the beginning of your radius, okay, on both sides. So that's how you can mark your new panel. If this lines up on an edge, you can roll it over, and when it starts to lift up again, that's the end of your radius. And I drew two lines down the side of this fresh panel, or new piece of sheet metal. Then what I did is, I don't have a roll, say, like in the brake. So what I did is I used the inner tube on the English wheel, and I found my lower anvil that looks like basically a ball, fit this curvature perfect. So there's gonna be some curves that are not gonna fit, but if you can use that one, if it's just a skosh too big, the rubber band will keep bending it. It may have to open the radius and then you can flex this. So basically I just kept wheeling it, and then I laid this inside of it until this side of the panel, which is this side, the front side, and the bottom, I laid it down, and when this touches your panel, this is the same, it's gonna be the same degree. And then what I did is, you always wanna clamp it on one side, wherever you're gonna start. So I started over here, and when you wheel it, you're gonna notice that you're gonna get some of this going on. So what I like to do is, I didn't take off a lot, but what I did is I used one of my marker lines that was straight, and then I laid the straight edge down, because in the center is where you want it, you don't want a gap in there. And then I scribed it and I trimmed the corners, because they kind of puckered up, which is gonna create a huge gap throughout the center of the panel. Then, as I put it up here and I clamped on one end, I started tacking. As you start tacking, you're gonna have to hammer and dolly to smash that weld back out, because it's gonna start getting tighter and tighter up against this door skin. And you don't want that. You want it to lay perfectly straight. So I started this last night because I want to get these doors done. I got the front gapped, and I didn't do the bottom because I knew that I had to do something like this. But I had to take the inner side of this door, being a wood structure, I just had to take off a piece of aluminum, and this, on the back side, the B-pillar side, it rolled around, and the proper way to do it is that way, but being this car, I could put it back in, but the issue with that is I'm gonna have to gap the back too. So since I gapped this in an earlier video where you basically TIG weld the edge, this panel is exactly dead hit. So all I'm gonna do is come in and I'll weld the ends up on the very end of it, just like I did, so I can gap it, and then underneath it just gets nailed to the wood structure. But you wanna start on this end, like I said, because it's gonna start pulling, and then you're gonna wanna hammer and dolly. The problem with this door is where I decided to cut it, I could have went up higher, I couldn't go down any lower because it would have got into this radius. So there's a piece of wood that goes right, pretty much right through this line. The good thing is that I can get through the back side with a body spoon and hammer this, but being that this door is not square, like the door's square, but then it tapers this way and the door falls downhill, the wood is square to, I guess you'd say, the rocker. So as you get to the middle of this panel, the wood is above my weld line. So I could actually get a dolly in there and smooth it out. It's only like the first eight inches that I have a little bit of trouble. But, so I'm gonna end up welding this up, or tacking it up, getting it to where it needs to be, and planishing it. Once I know the skin's on, then I'm gonna come in and I'll weld it. And then after I weld it, I'll planish it to where it's totally smooth. Then I'll come in and clamp it down to the bottom, and then I'll weld these edges up. And before I weld them up, what I'm gonna do, I think I'm gonna tack them. I'm pretty flat up against the panel, just to make sure that my radius is pretty true. And you can do this, which this panel here fits pretty much like a glove to the existing frame, so I know it's gonna line up to the front fender. But you could tack it in, you know, two places. The problem is when you tack it on the back side, you're gonna have to end up cutting that because it's gonna wanna shove up, which will distort the rest of the panel. So I like to, and another way to do it, you could probably tack it on this end and then tack it on the end of the panel, like the way I gap doors, to hold it on if you want to fit it. But the inner tube worked pretty nice on this piece, and I don't know if this one will lay with the clamps in here, but as you can see, well, there's a clamp down here. It lays pretty perfect, and it's gonna look a lot better, but it's gotta get done. And in the bottom, you can see these little pinholes. That's where the nails go into the wood, and then the piece of the aluminum covers it up. But that's my task today, is to get these doors done with what I'm doing. Then I know that from the front of the car to the B pillar, the doors are pretty much there. Then it's time to start working on the back side, whether I gotta modify the fenders or what have you. But I wanted to share with you guys the progress of what I'm doing today. I got the driver's side done, door gapped yesterday, as well as the front on this side. So I got my shims, I've got it marked. I mean, when it goes back on, the door gap's gonna be perfect. I just gotta get this finished, and we'll be on to the back. But just a little information of when you're making a bottom panel, whether it's for a door or however you want to do it. So I hope this video helped you guys out with starting out how to lay out a panel. If you don't want to make a pattern, this is pretty simple, plain Jane. It's not real hard for something like this. Some people I have seen, and this is the problem, is when you go to patch this one spot, that one spot, that one spot, and this one spot, the problem that you're gonna have, just to let you know, you're gonna have heat transfer basically 360 degrees around each portion. So it's gonna shrink in this corner in a 360 degree, over here. This door panel is gonna wanna go everywhere, and you're creating more work, where it's almost easier to make a whole new panel and only concentrate on where you welded, and that much on each side of your weld. And if you can get all that planished out smooth, you're gonna have a better looking panel, better feeling panel. And not only that, it's a brand new panel. With wood, with this inner structure being wood, the problem that I don't like is, so there's metal on these ends that screw into the wood, and then the door skin goes over it. They were rusted. So I cleaned them up and put some primer on them some weldable primer, so this wouldn't happen again. But not only that, obviously the rust ate through the primer, or through the paint. And then not only that, that cancer is going to keep rusting. So even if you finish this off and redo this section, there's still rust here. You could see this is really pitted because the wood holds moisture. And the moisture and metal do not get along. So as you can see on this side too, it did the same thing. And so what I want to do, I want to put a brand new fresh piece of metal in. The wood is painted. So with the fresh metal, you know, it's a door skin. And this car will probably never see water again. It's going to be kept indoors. That's the cool thing about doing some of these restorations. If you wanted to, you could put weldable primer on the bottom where the wood sits. And then obviously after you get the rest of your door all welded, or your skin welded and all that, you can come in and paint or prime to really seal it up. But in my scenario, this thing is going to be pretty much in a controlled environment for the most part. I wouldn't think that it would get, you know, 40,000 miles in the owner's lifetime. So I hope this video kind of helps you guys out of making just a lower skin. Same process with a rocker panel. Rocker panel, some of them have rolls, some of them have steps, but you could use the brake, bend it. But it's pretty simple. You just can't overthink it. I would say majority of the time people are overthinking what they have to do. And don't get carried away, but don't get outside of your ability level either. Don't say, well, I'm gonna cut the door clear up here and I think I'm gonna do it up here. You can, but that's gonna take practice. I mean, I could do something like that and I can get it back in line. That's if this whole door was more or less destroyed. And just don't overdo I mean, this panel up here is totally fine. So only repair what needs to be repaired. Now, if the customer wanted a whole new door skin, that's a different story. But what needs to be repaired, you guys could fix, and you'll have I guess you'd say almost a brand new door, if not a brand new door again, by doing, you know, these patch panels. We do them all the time. This is the same scenario on a quarter panel, lower fenders, stuff like that. So I just want to share this video with you guys to kind of show you where I'm at and in the process of making a lower door skin for this particular car, this XK140 Jaguar. And I'll weld it out and planish it, and I'll show you guys the finished product. So bear with me, and I will continue tacking this, planishing it, and then I'll come in and weld it out and metal finish it, and I'll show you guys the finished product. All right, so I got it pretty much metal finished. There's a couple spots I need to work a little bit to get that up. But as you can see, it's pretty much smoothed out and it fits pretty well. I have clamps out on the bottom because I've got to drill the holes and put in the nails, but it's basically 98% done. I'm just gonna come in and work these little spots and then I'll smooth it off one more time. But as you can see, it's just a lower door skin. So hope you guys like this video. It's a little bit of what I'm doing in the shop. And I'll put this door back on and I'll start moving to the rear fenders. So if you guys aren't a subscriber, click the link below. If not, follow my other social media pages, Facebook or Instagram. And I'm gonna try to start showing you guys more of what I'm doing. And if you guys want the educational side, reach out to me. Ask me questions. If not, then I'll just kind of keep showing what I'm doing as I move to the rear of this Jaguar. See you guys in the next video.